Anders, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Oscar. How are
How are you
you?
doing? I'm doing absolutely excellent. How about you?
I'm fine too. Yes.
I'm happy to all of you who are listening and probably watching right now that this is the first episode of a new podcast segment called Conversations with Guests. And our first guest today, for as a premiere version this week, is no less than Anders Sporring. Without any further ado, I want to ask you a little bit of if you can tell a little bit of who you are and what you do at the moment.
Uh, well, I'm retired since January. I uh, was more or less forced to retire, but it wasn't a problem really because I really think that gave me some freedom to own my own time, basically. I'm probably mostly known now for writing a lot, articles, especially on Medium, the platform Medium. But before that, I've been working in the industry with quality and logistics. And I also been working with social media. I was part-time librarian for a while. And I've been also working part-time as a semi-professional violin and viola player. So a lot of different areas. But I really started out as a sheep farmer in the northern part of Sweden. So there you have it.
Okay, that's very interesting to hear, and probably for many people out there that you can touch many different parts of life and still have something get together in a very, what can you say, coherent sum of it all.
Yeah.
If I understand correctly, did you start with a particular path first and then gradually moved over, for instance, like new technology,
Yeah.
etc.? Could you walk us through a little bit of the timeline
Oh,
since you
well, I started
graduated?
out as a sheep farmer first for a couple of years. Then I went into a music school for 3 years. Then I studied music science for 2 years. And after studying music science in Uppsala, I moved to Gotland, the island, and lived there for 16 and a half years. During that time, I worked at the Ericsson factory there, among other things. And I was very involved in the local music life, playing my violin and my viola in orchestras and whatnot. And then I was left off from the work at the factory. They let go of some 600-700 people at once in 2002. I was one
That's a
of them.
lot.
Yes, that's a lot, especially on a very isolated place like Gotland.
Mm.
And I was lucky enough to get another possibility. So I moved to Stockholm and worked as a consultant for Adecco. That's a manpower company. Worked in different areas of industries. Uh, Sandvik was one of the companies I worked for. I worked also for subcontractors for Ericsson and also for Aga Gas, the gas company, quality checking, and a little of this and a little of that for a couple of years. And then they didn't have any work for me either, so I was let go from them too. And then I started to work in social media. That is now from at 2008. 2008, social media wasn't very big. I think I was number 13 on the Twitter list in Sweden or something like that for a very long time. There in the
Wow,
beginning. Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah. So, but then all the famous people joined Twitter, and suddenly they had immediately like 50,000 followers or something like that. So you, as a normal Twitter user, you don't have a chance really. So, but I continue working with social media. I worked with creating web sites for companies. I've worked with one of the political parties before the election 2010, Centerpartiet. I was part of the web team there, and then I had a little bit of problem. I was sick for a year between 11 and 12. And when I came back, I didn't have a possibility to support myself from working with social media or making web sites or whatever. But I came into a part where I was employed by the local government libraries in Märsta. And I worked there with part-time with the digital medias and education of my colleagues, the librarians, in iPads and smartphones, and part as a library assistant for 2 years. And after that, I have been on sick leave, basically. So that's my career in very short forms.
I still think that it was, from what I've heard, it seems like there were many different phases. So you started out with some kind of like music background with more, what can you say, passion for everything belonged to violin and viola, etc. So I guess that was more of, what you say, an exploratory phase. And I can relate to that since I also had a background in music. I studied 1 year in a place called Ingesund Music.
Okay, Ingesund, yeah.
So I'm very fond of the different kind of bonds, both like musically and even outside of more of a camaraderie aspect as well. So what made you decide then that you were going to switch to Gotland and then pursue another, what can you say, a normal 9 to 5, so to speak, from a more...
Well, life, life leads you in various ways. In my case, moving to Gotland was because I followed a lady I was engaged to, and she moved to Gotland. And well, after a year there, we separated, and we both stayed there. So, and I met another woman, the woman I have my 2 daughters with, now grown up. Well, yeah, so that's what's brought me to Gotland, basically. In many ways, many of my life choices have been guided by life itself. I haven't always controlled where to go next. I just follow the path that life has opened up. Like, have you seen the movie Sliding Doors, for instance?
No, I actually haven't. So maybe
you
could walk us through as some kind of analogy.
A short version is that it's all about. It's in the center of the movie. There's a sliding doors in a subway cart or something like that. And if you go on board, you go a different part. And if you don't go on board, you have another path in life. And a little bit of that is what I have been going through from my life, I think. Choosing one path and following it. And
yeah, I think it's something that pretty much anyone needs to hear these days, since they're very focused. Like, I want to be this in 10 years. And I want to reach that on 5 to maybe take a little bit a slice of the humble pie and realize that maybe you don't know where you're going to go next. Maybe life will show you what is ultimately the best for you. So I guess that's something that you advise many people nowadays.
Yeah, well, one thing I advise people is that they should to listen more to their hearts, and follow what the heart tells you to do, because a lot of people are so focused on one path, and when they don't match up for getting through to that path, they will be so disappointed and they will lose so much credibility to themselves and self-respect, basically. So listen to your heart, and a lot of life's choices will be easier for you, really. And of course, you can't get rich this way.
Yeah, but what matters?
I have a rich life. I have a rich life.
Yeah.
I have 2 daughters. I have 4, close to 5 grandchildren, and I met a new woman 3.5 months ago. Something I didn't expect, because I've been alone basically since 2008. So it was a big thing for me to meet another woman. Falling in love at this age, it's different than falling in love when you're 20 or 30 or 40. So
yeah. I guess that there are many other, what can you say, circumstances that one needs to navigate in order to get each other on a more intimate base, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. There's a difference in a lot of things, but I mean, love is love. It will always be love, you know.
Yeah, and what's very funny, what's very funny about this is that this is recorded during Valentine's Day, so I guess the love is in the air for many people around the world as
exactly.
we speak.
And she is actually, she has a birthday tomorrow, so
ooh.
Yeah, so she will get her present the next time we get together in 2 weeks. So yeah.
So I'll sincerely wish her a happy birthday in advance, and hopefully it will be manifested in the way that you want to turn the day out, be, so to speak. And if you mentioned 2008 that you were starting to graduate from a more traditionally based career to a more modern, or actually more early adopted way of influence social media. So what went through your mind? Was it some kind of like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but it seems kind of cool, and maybe it will be some time to just tinker away? Could you explain a little bit the initial experience with Twitter?
First of all, my experience with the social media started with buying a Nokia N95. That was the top phone at the time, basically, 2007. It had a really good camera and stereo speakers built in. And you can use it on Facebook and whatever. And it was pre iPhones, so it wasn't a touch screen, but it was really advanced and
very durable too.
Yes, very expensive. But for me, it opened up a new world. I got in touch with the Nokia people. I was invited to the factory to see their future lab, for instance, there. I was blogging about that phone and accessories for it, and grow a personal brand from that, basically, for a while. And then I graduated started to blog about social media, because I started to use Twitter, and before that I had started to use a Finnish service called Jaiku. And it was a really good one. It was better than Twitter, actually. Because Twitter in the beginning didn't have threaded. You couldn't make threads on Twitter. But on Jaiku you could make it. And you can write long messages if you wanted. So in a lot of ways, Jaiku was a futuristic service that was sadly enough bought by who else than Google and killed. Yes. But social media at that point was, I mean, it was early adopters. There was a lot of shiny new things, like shiny new apps turning up around the corner everywhere. I was actually a beta user of Evernote very early. Spotify I had also quite early, also as a beta user. So I was an early adopter on that one too. A lot of the apps I was an early adopter on is not in use any longer. They have disappeared or been bought up by other. But I think I was beta user for maybe 40 apps or something for a while there. Yeah.
That's a lot of apps.
A lot of apps, yes. It was a fun time. It was an explorative time. It was a sharing is caring time. A lot of that you can see in Ship 30 for 30 now, because the people there are much into sharing is caring. They really cheer each other on, basically. They want you to succeed. So that's the part of Ship 30 that I really, really love, the community. So it was kind of, in a way, for me, like going back to 2008, 9, 10, you know, before all the famous people came into Twitter and broke it. And the tension and the hatred and everything started on Twitter. It was really a good time before they came into Twitter. So yeah.
Yeah, as you say, it was better before. And I guess that during that initial phase, it was more like, okay, what can we do with it rather than using it in order to maybe get some verbal insults to anyone that most people associate Twitter with. Although both of us can certainly testify that Twitter can be a lot of useful for other aspects too. So you mentioned the Ship 30 for 30, and it's a fascinating concept. And I will be enrolling in it in the upcoming months. It's March. But for those of the audience who does not know what Ship 30 for 30 is, it's a pretty new concept. Could you walk us through on like the history behind and how you got to familiarize with it and what it has brought for you in terms of career and life, and probably mostly life?
Well, for me, it started with when I started to write my articles on Medium in 2020, June 2020. I was looking for a community for writers, you know, because I wanted to have some place there I could find a group of people that were interested in the same thing that I was, mainly writing, you know. And I used the tag Writers Community. I find a lot of people. And through that tag, I found something called Ship 30 for 30. And it's suddenly in August or September last year, it said boom, and there was a lot of thing happening on that tag. And I started to hang with some of the people there, an American, an Australian woman, and a couple of more people. And I got really interested in what it was, you know. So I was lucky enough to be invited to join the January cohort, and I did. And the concept is that you write 30 essays of 250 words for 30 days. But during that time, you have something called lives with the creators of this concept, Dickie Bush and Nicholas Cole. And they are really, really brilliant people. They have a lot of knowledge that they are eager to share. And there's a lot of information. And there's also a breakout from that lives that you can join if you want to, and get even more down to earth, maybe even a one-to-one with Dickie or Nicholas, Who knows?
Wow,
But
so much
usually,
service.
but usually it's some of the ship captains. That's a kind of a group that is alumni. They have done Ship 30 maybe 1 or 2, 3 or 4 times already, and they are basically the sub captains of the ship. To say, they use a lot of marine terms in that thing, and it's a good thing. You have those lives 8 times during the cohort. Usually in the afternoons, European time, but sometimes twice or 3 times during a cohort they have it during night because of the Eastern time in US, or whatever it's called. I can't really remember. But it's yeah. And the interesting is that you get a lot of support from those people that already have done the cohorts. They read your articles or essays, and they say, well, maybe that formatting wasn't really good. Maybe you should change the colors in your essay or whatever. I haven't had anything like that. Most of my articles has been viewed with joy, and they liked it. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So for 30 days, I'd had 30 plus thousand views on my essays, and that's pretty good. Although the engagement rate on those could have been higher. I was at the 3.28% engagement rate. I was hoping for 5, because 5 could be a really good engagement rate. But I'm pretty pleased. I had some that was up to 7, I think. So
that sounds like some kind of an online community that finally decides like they pretty much, what you say, embraces the fact that writing online is not so easy for anyone who hasn't like touched it to begin with. But in your case, you mentioned that you decided to write on Medium, which is a very popular writing platform, back in 2020. What made you decide to finally publish, and how did you how did you grow an audience there, so to speak?
Well, 2020, the first wave of Corona.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah. It's so normal nowadays. So
yes, it is. It's a new normal, So yeah. Everybody seemed to forget that there was already in 2020 we had the first waves, and well, I decided to. I wanted to have something to do, because for the first thing was I didn't have a good computer at the time. I had a very old Windows laptop that was lagging like you know what, and I had a Mac Air 2012 that has broken down because of the built-in battery has broken down and didn't charge, and the Macs you can't run on the charger. So well, I was sitting there with my iPad. It wasn't fun. It didn't work very well.
Hard to write on those.
Yeah, so I decided to, well, I was starting to look around. I saved up a little bit of money, so I started looking around for a used Chromebook. And I was lucky enough to find a used, it wasn't really used because there was a parent that had bought it for a school girl, and she got another Chromebook from school, so they didn't have to use it. So I got it for 1,300 crowns. It was half the price of the new one, and it was only opened. The package was only opened. It was never used. So it was a very good prospect to buy. And from that point, I started to write an online journal. that I called Journalings by Sporring. And I wrote on that platform for a website for 365 days in a row. Short, but I mean, it was every day. And it started with that. And then I started a newsletter that was coupled to the journaling. And then I decided, okay, well, maybe I should start writing articles. So I started writing articles. And got picked up by some of the larger publications in the beginning. And, you know, I thought to myself, wow, yes, this is it. I will earn the big bucks. And 3 or 4 articles down, I started to get rejected.
Oh, no.
Because my English wasn't good enough, they decided.
Oh.
So, I mean, I'm not a native. Neither of us are native English speakers. We have our problems with English, of course. But I decided I will show them. I will show them that they are going to lose something when they don't have me in their stable publishing. So I decided to, first I wanted to earn enough money to pay for my subscriptions online. Like Medium cost $50 a year or something like that. Readwise is a service I use quite frequently. Cost, I think, about $80 a year or something like that. And some other subscriptions I would like to have, like New York Times, for instance, also, and so on. So that was the goal from 2020. I reached my goal in October 2021 when I got my first big payout. The first big payout was $0.64 or something like that. And it took me a bit of time because I had $4 or $5 payouts, you know, and some months I didn't have any payouts at all. And then in August, I published an article called Note-Taking in 2021. That article blew up, really. It blew up. I mean, it has earned me about $250 to this day. Still top earning articles by my articles. And that made me be able to pay off my subscriptions for a year by a used but new mobile phone, a Motorola Stylus 2020, a smartwatch, an Amazfit smartwatch, and Samsung AirPods. And I still had about $50 or $60 left over from my payouts that year. So yes, you can make a little money. You will not get terribly rich, but you can make some money on a platform like Medium still. So yeah.
So what interests me the most, the fact that you had such a persistence. You went for 365 days straight, and then suddenly it became such a viral article that one of them was like, okay, now it was finally time to reap the rewards, so to speak. So I guess it was kind of like an accelerating feeling when you see like the comment sections like going wild, the notifications is like blowing out of proportion, stuff like that. So could you take us back to that moment?
Well, the first thing I noticed, of course, was the statistics. You know, they blew the roof, basically. I've been having like, 50 visits to my articles a day, you know, And suddenly I had one article that you had 500, 600, 700 visits on. And it was, it was like you won the lotto or something. It was accelerating, as you say, because you had worked so hard, and at one point in 2021, I was almost on the edge, on the whim to give up completely. In June, I decided to not give up. I decided to write articles every day for 31 days. That was before I knew about the Ship 30 for 30. And I wrote 31 articles during June and July, and completed my series there. No big earners there. But on the other hand, I got a consistency. I got the morals to sit down every morning for 2 hours and write. Because if you are consistent in your writing, you don't have to write anything special, because when you start writing, there is something happening with your mind. Your mind develops new way to make sentences, structures. Of course, before I publish articles, I use an app called Grammarly that checks spelling and grammatics, because I want to have as good English as proper English, American English as possible for my readers. Because you want to deliver something good for the reader, an experience, really. And I think that's what got me to this point where I am now. I just checked. I have 26,150 views on my articles on Medium since June 2020.
So we can safely say that all that consistency, or rather the decision to not give up in June, paid off pretty well in your case. And I'm very happy that it turned out to be that way. So could you tell us a little bit like what your articles, because every writer, like in the beginning, has a vague sense of what the topic is, but after a while it kind of sets down like, okay, these are my kind of like circle of competences, and then move gradually over to other more adjacent topics. So where do you mostly write? What topics do you currently have a
I kind of earned a spot in the note-taking area of the digital world, because that's what my most prominent articles has been about. I didn't choose that direction. My readers chose that direction for me, basically. And of course, it's also led me to work closely with Scrintal now, a Swedish startup in the note-making world. I am really working very close with them. So, and I'm proud to be part of that team. I'm not an employee. I'm a person that has a keen interest, and I want them to succeed in their efforts to find the best solution for a note-making app. And what they have done is an app for note-making, not note-taking. That's more or less a visual mind-mapping note-making app, you can say. And the clarity you get from that app is so fantastic. So when I was onboarded, I changed from Rome Research to Scrintal immediately during Ship 30 for 30. So the last 20 articles and essays on Ship 30, they are strictly from my production in Scrintal. So yeah, I mean, it's a kind of crazy. I mean, I've been contacted by 2 other startups in the note making area, and they also want to have me close as a beta or senior advisor or something like that. I mean, I'm filled with joy because this is really an unexpected turn to experience. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything of this, but now I'm here. I'm quite settled. I have continued writing my atomic essays. I think was it the 40th or was it the 49th? I published today. I can't remember. But I continue to write those atomic essays also. And I will continue writing articles on Medium. But right now I'm focusing on working with Scrintal.
And I can say as well that I was one of the, and still is one of the early beta tester as well. And what fascinates me as well is like the visual display that is not found in any other apps. And I guess they have got a pretty good edge there. So I'm truly looking forward to when they are going to mobile version, which takes some time. But they seem to be a very great job. And I will link a link to Scrintal in case you are interested and want to hear more of it for those who are listening and watching right now. So I want to still dig a little bit in terms of Medium, because what would you say, apart from consistency, is your best tips for succeeding there and as a writer, seeing as you also have got to what could you say, familiarized with the community around the world and saying like, okay, these are what they are struggling, this is how I can help. What are your main tips that you bring to all aspiring writers out there?
What I usually say to people that want to start writing is that you should write and write again. And yes, one other thing, write.
Right.
Because if you write consistently, you don't have to publish in the beginning. You start writing. You have an idea about what you want to write about. And then, I mean, like they say in Nicholas Cole says in some point or some book, or I can't remember if it was in the live on Ship 30, he said, good enough is good enough. You don't have to overwork everything. And exactly that point I have experienced myself. One of my more profitable articles, not taking 2021 though, another one, I looked at it and said, well, it's not there really. I should maybe not publish it. But it was a loved article by my readers. It's top 5, I think, of my articles.
What's it called, out of curiosity? What's the name?
I can't remember right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll link it in the show notes in the description so you can find out.
Yeah. But it was one article I thought, well, okay, I have to leave it. Because if I stay on it, I will never get forward at all. And luckily enough, I press publish, and I could continue writing other articles. So yeah, sometimes good enough is good enough. That's one thing. And the other thing is write, and yes, write.
Yeah, I believe that's so simple, but still kind of, what could you say, either discouraging or I would say rather encouraging for people to simply believe or trust the process. Like if you consist of daily pieces one by one, then you will finally have this library, as Cole is talking about, and this will like gain dividends later, so to speak.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I want to first of all mention the fantastic dog that you have. as well.
Yes, this is my daughter's dog, Ture.
Oh, I
Yeah,
guess
we're best buddies, so.
it's good to have some support in the more idea creation phases and
Yeah,
publishing as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
We take long walks together. I always keep a small notebook with me, and I write down ideas that pop up during my walks. That's a really good thing to do,
Yeah,
Maybe you will not
absolutely.
use it this week, maybe not this year even. But if you have those notebooks with ideas, you can always go back to them and find a page you didn't know existed, and there you have a seed for your best article ever, probably. So that's a good thing to remember, to always keep a small notebook in your back pocket with a small pen. So
Yeah,
that's
I
another tip.
200% agree on that one. I'm a very big
Yeah.
proponent of the capturing as well. And since you're an expert on note taking, you know perfectly well that you need good inputs in order to grow and eventually publish out to the market to watch,
Yeah.
admire. So speaking of like the market stuff like that, because I heard we spoke a little bit off recording that you were doing some or planning to start some interesting progress or interesting projects rather. So
Yeah.
could you brief us a little bit on what's heading for you next and what you have your horizons at?
My next project I will start myself is not a writing project. It's something I call an Atomicast. It's a short cast. It's not a podcast. It's a shorter form. It's inspired by the atomic essays you write during the Ship 30 for 30. And of course, on the brilliant book by James Clear called Atomic Habits.
So good. So good.
Yeah, so good. If you haven't read it, read it and read it again.
And again.
Yeah. And again. Exactly. Yeah, so that's my plan. And the plan is to release it in next month here, maybe middle of March. I'm not sure yet, but I have some really interesting guests lined up. And I was going to ask you, Oscar, if you will be my guest later on
Yes,
in the series.
I would love to return the favor.
Yeah,
So we can
great.
already make it official.
Yeah, great. So that I will start with doing 3 episodes myself. The theme for the Atomicast is people and technology, and what effect the technology have us people, and vice versa, really. So it's kind of more about the people than the technology, but you get the sense, at least, from that. It's the name for my Atomicast is From My Brain to Yours.
Very direct and no nonsense.
Yeah, and the idea is to just have a short introduction to the people that will be on the Atomicast, and a little bit like you have here, but in a much briefer, condensed form, And I think it's possible to do a really good thing in 12 minutes. That's my aim. No longer than 12 minutes. And then you have the Atomicast. So, yeah.
I look forward to when you release it. I will surely mention it wherever my social media channels reach. So,
yeah, exactly. Well, it would be lovely to have a sponsor like you posting when I release new episodes. As I said, I have some quite interesting people from my cohort of Ship 30 for 30 lined up. So 2 real superstars from there. I've not mentioned the names yet, but we'll get around to it.
That's a surprise.
Yeah. And also I'm writing an ebook on note making. I started to write it maybe half a year ago, and ended up with changing my mind a lot about how to do the note making. And at that point, it was more like note taking. But I realized that note making was the thing you're doing when you're writing in your own wordings. Note taking is when you write what the people say on the podcast or YouTube video or the lecture if you're studying. But if you write that in your own wording, you will remember it completely. Because if you write the same words that they are saying, you will not remember it. So note making is quite different from note taking. It's kind of apples or pears or something like that. Yeah. And you can agree on that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you gain such a more deeper level of understanding if you're trying to convince a random audience like why you believe in that way. And I believe that's called a Feynman technique, in which you're trying to make it as clear as possible, as simple as possible. Because if you express it, and that's one of my motivations why I'm publishing every day as well, because you gain so much understanding just by writing. So it's kind of like its own reward in that sense. So this is why writing is such a good habit and for everything in life, so to speak.
I can agree on that, because the deeper understanding about self is a big win from whatever writing you're doing, basically. If you're journaling, if you're bullet journaling, if you're writing every day just for yourself on a Word document, or if you're writing in public like I did, like an online journal, which was what blogs was from the beginning. It was an online journal of thoughts, basically. And then they went over to be specific about clothing or makeup or movies or whatever, But in the beginning, it was like a journal that you were reading, that people release their deepest thoughts online, So I think a lot of one thing I've realized publishing so much that I have done, I've been writing some really, really deeply serious articles. I had a really, really bad relationship that almost made me kill myself in 2014, and I wrote about that. It's the longest article. I think it's 11 minutes to read, so it's a very long read. But it was important for me to write it. Of course, it's not mentioning names or so. It's just my point of view. So, but it was deliberating to write it down and publish it, to leave that finally behind you, to be able to go on with your life. That was what it's all about. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just coming back to the thing that writing really can transform, and really, what could you say, make sure to get it out there in order to not have it lingering around in some kind of, what could you say, very... it's not so comfortable, to say the least.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a really hard thing to be personal on the web today.
Yeah.
If you are personal, you can release the worst in people, basically. But I have been lucky enough to not be affected by that. Those that have read the article and commented on it has been very saddened by the story. outraged by the story, and also felt compassion for me, of course. I was not looking for that. I was looking for the release to get rid of something very complex that had happened in my life, So, yeah. You can be personal and serious also. It doesn't have to just be clinical and free from emotions. Sometimes it's good to write personal things also. I can see that on my essay I wrote about my Parkinson on one of my essays for Ship 30. And that one is, I think it's the third or third most read essay. So personal stuff attracts people.
Yeah, since they can see like, okay, I'm not alone in my, what can you say, horrific journey, and it gives some kind of sense of calm, and that's kind of like the good thing with, like, because of course there is this common fear, like what are people going to say about me, but then you find out like okay, there are people who truly care too, so it gives like, okay, there is an extra hump, but once you get over there, then you truly, what can you say, take it to the next level in terms of like both trust and the more goodwill from the people who resonated with it, so to speak.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, of course, if you continue to write all the personal thing, I think people will get really tired of what you're doing. So,
but once in a while,
yeah. But once in a while, it's not bad to write something personal.
Yeah.
Diversity. I've been very diverse in my writing, and one thing they teach in Ship 30 for 30 is to find your own niche. And I mean, I have my niche if I want it. I mean, it's note-taking, note-making, for sure. That's my niche, and I'm starting to develop things in that area now. Like the ebook I hopefully will release before summer, if everything goes right. Maybe it will be a book, who knows? But the plan is to make something good about the process, the philosophy, basically, that I have myself. I mean, I've been doing a lot of Zettelkassen. You can put a link to Zettelkassen so it's people can check it out.
It's a new field and broadens perspective on what you can do.
Yeah. I've been doing that. I built a second brain in Rome, kind of thing. But I'm not satisfied with it because it didn't give the. Maybe I did it wrong. I don't know, because I have never gone any cohorts or courses in it. I mean, it's too bloody expensive, paying like $4,000 or something for that. Wasn't in my range, So I mean, even the Ship 30 is quite expensive for some people. So for me, it was a stretch, to say it least. So, but I'm not sad. I put some money into something that has been so evolving for myself. I've been questioning myself a lot about my own writing, I'm not adapted a lot of the things they learn, but I see the points, how to use the tools to be able to, I don't say manipulate, but the readers, but in a way you're doing that. You're manipulating the readers to a point. And it's a good thing you can do that. But for me, I've been quite consistent in writing the way I do, and a lot of the articles and essays have turned out to be really good and have had a lot of reads too. So, I mean, one other thing I learned from writing on Medium is that you never know what will hit.
Just like the viral article and the other one.
Yeah. I mean, note taking in 2021 wasn't my article that I didn't see. It was kind of a continuance from note taking in 2020. That was a short article about note taking and my thoughts about that. And I wrote a new article in 2021, note taking in 2021. Where I talked about where I'm at and where I'm going. And a lot of those pre-notions, if you call that, has turned out to be very right. Some hasn't. I have changed a lot of things in my thought process surrounding note-taking, note-making. And I think that will be evolving all the time. I don't think I'm ready. I'm not finished. I will continue.
That sounds very good. So I want to ask you a last question, or rather second to last question. That's something I'm asking every guest from now on. So at the Total Living, it's more about like how to create like the best life, both so productivity and other ways too. So my question for you is, what are your tips on creating your best life, both now and in the future?
I think a lot of people live very complex life. They tend to look more on things than on the life itself. Because if you look at life itself, the things you need aren't so much. I mean, I moved into a small house on my daughter's yard here now 2 days before Christmas. It's 36 square meters. And you see the kitchen here behind me, basically. And it's a kitchen living room area. I have my own bathroom and washing possibilities, and I have a large bedroom. That's all you need. I mean, and I put up my little pod studio with my Chromebook and my big screen next to me here. And when my girlfriend comes here, I take it down so we can sit and enjoy our dinners. And I sit with my computer in the couch instead. I mean, you don't have to have so much things, really. In fact, I got rid of close to 28 boxes of stuff before moving here. Imagine the amount of stuff I had hoarded throughout life.
Yeah, and I guess it was kind of a relief later to start fresh.
Everything I was throwing away was a relief because this felt like you moved a ton of stuff from your shoulders, basically. So a lot of emotional stuff that you didn't need to have anymore. So yeah, I have one box. It's really hard for me to get rid of, and that's a box with a moving box with all my photos.
Yeah.
Let's put at the end with that and say memorial things is harder to get rid of.
Yeah, it's usually the case for a lot of us. So I like
moving. Oh,
I like the main message with the fact that you can pretty much thrive by allocating or rather acquiring less stuff. That it's more about you yourself and your own perspective on things rather than the things that probably end up owning you if you're unlucky.
Yeah. So I mean, looking back, I can see the problems my parents had. My father was a priest, and when they had to leave the partridge, it was a huge house, like 360 square meters, and they moved into a small villa of 120 square meters. And it was really hard for them to get rid of furniture and other stuff. You know, they had the garage full with stuff from that old living house, and they couldn't get rid of it. So it was really hard for them. My mother, when my father died, he was actually buried 18 years ago on Valentine's Day, actually. Which was a good thing because he had such a big heart, my father. But my mother, when she moved from that house to a smaller, even smaller apartment, we had to lure her away so we could clean out the stuff. We filled the container with, yeah, we cleaned it, we filled the container with stuff, and she didn't know what was gone. So, yeah.
So that sounds like a very nice tips when moving out. So I want to ask a last question, because first of all, thank you so much for your time here. What can you say? Premiering the first episode. Where can people find you outside of Medium?
Of course, on Twitter. I also have a profile on LinkedIn. My name is Anders Sporring, and you use that as one word. You can write that in your links also.
Links and everything will be in the show notes as well.
I mean, due to my more international direction, I have decided I will probably change my name to Andy Anders Sporring.
Oh, Andy Sporring.
Yeah. So because a lot of my international fans already call me Andy. Yeah, so. Oh, that's the dog. There's a lorry outside that he's barking on. Tyst. Yeah. So anyway, Sporring is not a common name in Sweden. I think we are about 16 people or something that has that surname, and 12 of them are related in some way to me. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking the time for being in this episode.
You're welcome, Oscar. It has been my pleasure.
Thank you so much.